We'll discuss today a little bit about the custom of having a Shalom Zachor, as it's well known. That is, just to go back a step, we know the Torah tells us, Uvayom Hashmini Yimo Bisar Alaso. The Torah tells us on the 8th day, one is obligated to do a circumcision on the son, and if there's no father around, so it's Basin's obligation. But there's an obligation on the father, and if not Basin, to ensure that the child be circumcised on day 8. And even though we originally find the mitzvah of Brit Milah from Avram Avinu, nevertheless we're obligated because it was repeated later on Mount Sinai to Moshe Rabbeinu. And we learn the different history and attitudes behind Milah, but the obligation to do Milah is based on Moshe Rabbeinu, that the Torah was given at Har Sinai in the mitzvah of Milah. So the mitzvah of Milah is binding on us because it was given at Har Sinai. And the Torah, and we learn out from the Torah's pasuk of Vayom Hashmini Yimo B'Sar Lasso, the Gemara in Shabbos makes a drasha B'Yom Afilu B'Shabbos. And the halach is, even if a day 8 falls out on Shabbos, nevertheless we do a bris milah, we do a circumcision, and we're not, because of the importance of the mitzvah of milah, we don't push it off. Like it's one of the few positive commandments, bris milah and karban pesach. The failure to perform this mitzvah has a serious consequence, a chiyuv kares. By all other mitzvahs, positive commandments you don't do, it's not a good thing, but you are mavatel a mitzvah asa, you just nullified a positive mitzvah. However, by milah and karban pesach, but we'll focus on milah, you incur a chiyuv kares, of course, until you get the bris milah done. So the milah has to be done on day 8, and day 8, even if it's Shabbos. And that's only, of course, if it's a natural baby, it's a C-section baby, that we did not do on Shabbos. Why don't we do a C-section baby on Shabbos? Why are we discriminating against C-section babies? Because it doesn't do with C-section baby, it has to do with the concept of a suffix milah bizmana. We only do a milah on Shabbos when we know for certain this is the day 8. But we're not sure it's day 8, so if a baby is born after sunset Friday night, so therefore we're not sure after sunset before nightfall, so we can't do the bris milah on Friday because maybe it's only day 7. We can't do the bris milah on Shabbos because maybe it's not day 8, maybe that's day 7. And therefore we have to wait until Sunday. So we only do a milah bizmana on Shabbos. So a C-section, we know for sure this baby was born on Shabbos. That is true, that's not the doubt. The doubt here is the Gemara tells us in Shabbos, Kuf Lam and Hey, or around there, that the issue is whether a C-section baby, the obligation is to do a milah on day 8. Maybe the milah is on day 1 for a C-section baby. Why should that be different, a C-section baby? Because since the Torah connects Isha Kisazriya V'Yolda Zacha, the Torah connects the 2 months later, the woman becoming tummy 7 days, and the 8th day doing a circumcision, because we wait 7 days for the mother to become Torah so that our husband and wife can be together and celebrate together. However, so we normally do a C-section baby on day 8 because we're not sure, so we cover ourselves. Because if it's day 1, so we're still doing it, we're still Yotzei day 8. But if it's day 8, then we did it day 1, it's a no-go. So Shabbos, we can't do it day 8 either because maybe it's day 1. So it's only a suffix milah bizmana, and therefore we push it off the bris until afterwards. But generally speaking, if it's a healthy baby and it's the 8th day, so then the halacha is we do the milah even on Shabbos. So there's a halacha of Shalom Zachor, a minhag of Shalom Zachor, that the Shabbos before, So in fact, there's a whole discussion if a baby's born on Shabbos, depending obviously when it was born. But if it was maybe a Ben Hashmashis baby, you're not sure. But there's a discussion when you should do the Shalom Zachor, assuming you have it 2 Shabbos. But there's a minhag on Shabbos, and I'll quote in Shulchan Aruch in Simin Rei Samachay. It's written Od Nagu Lasos. First it talks about the mitzvah of having a Sudas Bris Milah. That's on day 8. But Od Nagu, in addition to having the general Bris Milah meal, Nagu Lasos Suda Umishta B'Leil Shabbos. It's a minhag on Friday night to do a little Suda. La'achash Anolad Zachor, after you have a boy. Nichnasim Eitzel Atinok Litom Sham. You go by the child, Behu Gam Kain Sudas Mitzvah. And the minhag is that we don't really have a Suda in terms of a normal definition of Suda, that we just have different types of meaning targima, we have fruit, cake, nuts and other things, chickpeas, etc. So we'll come back to that minhag. But the Shulchan Aruch brings down the minhag on the Friday night before the bris, one should do a Shalom Zachor. What is the reason for a Shalom Zachor? So there are different schools of thought. One school of thought is that basically it's a Sudas Hodah. It's a Thanksgiving meal. That even though we take for granted today that childbirth is a regular, natural, it is a natural, but we don't view it as a dangerous event, but in halacha we still view the woman as a cholash yesh bo sakana. We still view it in halacha as a very dangerous event, and therefore when a woman and the child survive the childbirth, we want to have a sudas haldah. We want to have a thank you meal to God. Thank you that my child had a child. And in fact, that's what the Bali Musa point out. It's really a greater miracle that a child's born than Tchiyas HaMesim, resurrecting the dead. Of course, if you put in the front page of the paper, child born, no one would buy the paper. But if you wrote in the front page, resurrection of the dead, everyone will buy a paper. But that's only because it doesn't happen that often, so therefore people want to hear about it. But in halacha, really, it's a greater nace that a child's born, because a child comes from a little tipa struch, a little drop, and a child's created. But a parent, but someone who passes away and is dead, so the body's already there, it's just a matter of resurrecting the body. So some want to say it's part of a shtickle of it's a sudas hodah. Others point out Shalom Zachor is that this, like physically speaking, we wait to day 8, as the Rambam writes in Moreh Nevuchim, we wait to the 8th day because a child's not ready physically to have a bris beforehand. So too, spiritually speaking, we wait to day 8 because we want to go through a Shabbos. We want every child to go through a Shabbos before we do the bris milah. And it happens every time, and the bris is on 8 days, we're always going to go through a Shabbos. So in fact, they point out, interesting, that just like milah on a physically takes away the arla, so too spiritually speaking, it takes away the arla salev. It's mukshar the child for Talmud Torah, for learning purposes. In fact, some achronim bring down that's really the gemar haleda. That is the conclusion of the birth. In fact, that's why somehow the Ben Yehoyada brings down a minhag yafeh, that people used to celebrate their birthdays on the Yom HaMilah. In fact, that's the Chasam Sofer points out that the different opinions in Rashi, when Avram made a party for Yitzchak, Yomi Gamal Yitzchak, one first Rashi says it was 24 months later. And when they stopped weaning, another pshat in Rashi says day 8, and the answer is no, it's both. It was 24 months later, it was day 8. They celebrated the birthday on the day of the Milo, because the Milo is the Gemar Haleda. And that's why we find the concept of Zrizin Magdimon La Mitzvahs. You do a mitzvah as soon as possible. And we especially apply it to Milo because we want you to name the child as soon as possible, so you have the Gemar Haleda. So that's the second. The first school of thought is that it's the Sudas Hodah. You're thanking God for everything went well. The second pshat is you need a Shabbos. And in fact, that's why it's interesting. In the Likutei Bris, they bring down what's the Shalom Zachor. Why is it called Shalom Zachor? Zachor hu lashon zichron v'sechira. As we'll come to that, that's what's a different pshat we'll can't get into. V'zeh davka b'Shabbos shenema bo gan came Zachor. V'Shabbos hi mitzvah rishona shalosh hamakayim atah. So it's an illusion, the Shalom Zachor, Shabbat Shalom, that Shabbos is a time of Shalom Bayis. You light the Friday night candles because of Shalom Bayis. And Zachor, that's what the Gemara tells us, the source, the Torah tells us in Yisro and the Aseres HaDibros, Zachor es Yom HaShabbos L'Kodsho. Remember the Shabbos day and sanctify it. And Zachor Alayayin, Zachor means to remember, and Zachor is referring to Shabbos. So Shalom Zachor is an illusion that you do the Shalom Zachor on the Friday night and Shabbos as well. So that's the second school of thought. And the third school of thought is a famous Taz they bring down. The Taz brings down Va'od Uvakir Hatino Kanolad Shu Avel Al Toraso Shashachach. We are being Menachem Avel, we are comforting the mourner, because he forgot all the Torah that he learned. What is the Taz referring to? Before we say that, let me just finish reading. And the Laman Briso brings out, for this reason, Nogu Lecho Shabadashim Oshar Kitni Oshe Machal Avelim. That's in the minute to have the different nuts and things that they give for Avelim. So they point maybe chickpeas as well. And that's what they point out. So what is the Taz talking about? That it's a Shalom Zachor. What Torah did he forget? He was just born. So he's referring to a famous Gemara Nida Chazal, which tells us that before a person is born, everyone is taught Kol HaTorah Kulo. You're taught the whole Torah. And when you come out, then Amalek is your little smack and you forget it all. So, in fact, that's what Rav Chaim Volozhin writes. That's one of the Sodos about what is the basis, why is a Jew obligated to be buried? It's a whole discussion. We know there's Tashmishe Kedusha, a Sefer Torah that ruins, or the cover. There are different halachas, but the Gemara doesn't really spell out why. What's the source? Why is something ta'on kfura? Why does it necessitate a burial? And they point out, because since it's by Torah, since you're a Gufa Kedusha, you were taught the whole Torah, or you were taught some of the Torah, so therefore that's why you have to be buried. So he points out that the angel hits the person, so when the baby's born, he forgets all his Torah, and therefore you have to comfort the baby, Menachem Avel. In fact, that's the famous question the Welt asked, is why is it that we know by Yitzrotzu Habanim Bekirba, Esav and Yaakov were fighting in the womb, and Chazal tell us when they passed by a house of idol worship, Esav tried to get out, and when they passed the yeshiva, Yaakov tried to get out. So the question the Welt asked, what do you mean? We just did this saying, the rabbis say that you teach a Kol Torah Kulo. You teach the child the whole Torah. So you have an angel, you have the Malach Hashem teaching you. Why are you trying to go to yeshiva? So the Welt says, with a chavrusa like Esav, a learning partner like Esav, you want out of there. But either way, the tradition is you're taught the whole Torah, and you come out, so you're being Menachem Avel. And in fact, why bother the angel, why should the angel bother teaching us if you're going to forget everything anyway? And they explain based on the Taz is because it wants to show that every Jew has the potential to learn Torah. In fact, there's a famous Iglei Tal, when he talks about the mitzvah of amelus b'Torah. So people think working and struggling in Torah is looking up the words, forcing yourself to things you don't, forcing the things you don't necessarily want to learn now. The highest level of Torah, because something, well, the less I enjoy it, the more lishma. So the Avnei Nezers are just the opposite. Torah lahanos, the whole purpose of Torah is to get hana, and the more benefit you get, the more lishma it is, the more tainug, and that's what is that if a person you get a geschmack when if a person, if we remember, one thing there's a lot of pros to remember. If we remembered everything and never forgot, then learning Torah wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same excitement and new. Of course, you have to work on it. You work on Chazara, you review it, and then when you get it on your own, then you feel the Geshma. Like they say, the Vilna Gaon used to chase away angels at night. Because the Vilna Gaon went to sleep with questions, and the angels wanted to give him answers. He said, he used to shoo them away. No, I want it to be my Torah. I want to work on it, and that's what it's all about. That every person, every Jew has the ability to learn Torah. Some more than others. But by the fact that the angel teaches us and it makes you mukshar with Torah now, so therefore we all have the ability on our own levels to study Torah. So those are the three different schools of thought on the minhag of Nagu, as they bring down in Shulchan Aruch, of Nagu Leil Shabbos, to have a Suda, not a real Suda, as in terms of bread, but to get together, either because it's a Suda's Hodah, it's to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the miracles that the child is healthy and safe, or as others suggest, that every child has to go through a Shabbos. The Bris Milah is Muksharim for learning, and that's why Shabbos Zachor al Yayin, you remember on the wine, and that's why, in fact, that's how some point out the Lashon Shalom Zachor, working with the Taz, the Zachor Lashon Zichron v'Zachira. Shalom Zachor, you have to remember. Sheshachach HaTorah Shalamad. You forgot the Torah you learned in the womb. Now you want to have to come to remember on what you forgot. And therefore that's why it's on Shabbos, from Zechira, to remember what you forgot. The three schools of thought: Sudas Hodah. Secondly, that everyone, spiritually speaking, the child is ready to go through a Shabbat, to be ready for the Milah, be Mukshar for Judaism and Talmud Torah. And the Taz, you have to be Menachem Avod. After the child lost all the Torah, so now Shalom Zachor, now's the time we get to begin again. We want him to come back and remember all the Torah and start learning again what he learned in the mother's womb.